Hi everyone, finally back with another installation of these videos that I get to maybe once every 4 or 6 months. A couple of months ago, I sent out a poll and asked you all what you wanted the next video to be about, and someone responded, and so I have 100% in the what the heck is going on with me? I don't understand my feelings. And that's more common than most people, I think, imagine or expect. We all allegedly have a connection to our own internal knowledge or internal resources, but a lot of times things pop up and seemingly out of nowhere. If you've ever felt like everything was going totally fine in your day and then found yourself crying in the car or blowing up at one of your kids or saying something so passive aggressive to your partner or your loved one and then going, where did that come from? That's actually the norm. I would describe that as more of the status quo than somebody being able to tap into their inner knowing, express how they feel, articulate that elegantly to the people that they love, and then let it just float away from them like water off a duck's back. It's a lot more common for us all to go, where did that come from? So what I want to talk about is a little bit of the where did that come from, and then a little bit about how shame does not work as a coping strategy for preventing that from happening again. So I get the sense that I should probably start with the shame part. So if I say something really ugly and passive aggressive, and then go, oh my God, and then I come around and say how sorry I am, and then I make sure to tell that person, and I'm never going to do that again. You know, that felt really bad. I'm sorry. But if I don't actually know what happened, beating myself up about this thing kind of bubbling up out of seemingly nowhere is actually creating the feedback loop for the same problem. So shame is like emotional suppression. It's its own feeling, certainly. I feel really bad. I feel embarrassed or mortified about what happened. But what I don't know is anything about why it happened. But if I go, oh my gosh, I'm a terrible person, I need to make sure that never happens again, but I don't have any real like insight or information, I'm actually just pushing information down with shame, adding a little bit more heat, pain on it, shame, and then the buildup begins again. So there's a cycle to that. So the explosion or the eruption is at the top of the cycle, bang. Then I'm shaming myself and going, oh my gosh, the heat's coming down. And I think to myself, wow, I never want that to happen again. And then I want to hit the reset button. I promise myself I'm not going to yell at my kids or snap at one of my employees, something like that. And then I committed to it. I promised myself that that's what's going to happen. And then next thing you know, the pressure is building up again. But I don't know that the pressure is building up because I can't feel that. So then when the straw, whatever it is, and it doesn't always have to relate to other people, you know what I'm saying, like kids, partner, employees. It could very well just be like, why do I feel so bad? Why am I being so hard on myself right now? I feel so awful. Where is this coming from? But the same pattern applies, which is something comes up above the surface and demands my attention, and I feel shame and go, oh my God, what is wrong with me? I got to stop thinking like that. I got to think more positive. I need to be more positive. And then I try to suppress my pain with now maybe like pseudo positive, but maybe like kind of toxic form of positivity, which is also shame. I push it down and then go, okay, I'm not going to let that come up again. And if I haven't, in another video, I've referenced something about this, which is clients of mine will come to me and basically they are giving me an incredible gift of their trust, and they are inviting me into the house of their psyche. And some people, meaning like their internal world, they're letting me come in and see what's going on. And some people really will show up and go, "Can you help me just standing out on the front porch? I don't really want to let you in." And I go, not really. I can only help you with the stuff that's on the surface or the externals, and that's not really, profound change. That's not really depth. So somebody lets me in the door, and then I'm walking around kind of like the way that a plumber or an electrician would, both professions that I admire greatly because it's not a skill set I have whatsoever. And then somebody goes, "Yeah, I just can't figure out what's wrong in here." And I go, "Okay, well, let's look around." And then they go, "Would you want to go to the library and we can look around from there?" And I'm like, "Well, the problem might be in the library, but it might not." And then I see, the basement door with a bunch of like rattling, chains and like ghostly moans coming out of the other side of the door. And I go, "Do you think the problem might be in that super scary basement that's all chained and locked up?" And my clients look at me and go, "There's no basement in this house. What are you talking about?" And then I go, okay, let us retire to the library where perhaps I can get a little more information about the non-existent basement. Another way to think about this is how much energy it would take to hold a beach ball full of air under the water. If you were standing in the ocean or in a swimming pool, how much energy would you have to expend to push that buoyant thing under the surface and then hold it there? And so then what happens is if somebody goes, "Hey, do you want to leave the pool and go do something else? Go somewhere else." And you go, "Oh, no, I'm just going to stay here." And they go, "Oh, why?" And you're like, "Oh, no reason. I just like it here." And they go, "Could it have anything to do with the beach ball that you're holding under the water?" And you go, "What beach ball?" But the truth of the matter is you are also at the same time vibrating with the tension that it would, and the energy expenditure that it would take to hold that thing under the water, to keep it suppressed. And the other additional part of that metaphor is then if you are tensed up, pushing that thing down, and then somebody, I don't know, brushes up against your arm, bumps into you, and you go, "Ah," like it really hurts. If you don't know anything about what you're suppressing, you could honestly believe that the thing that was the source of your pain was that person bumping into you accidentally, right? That's where we end up exploding on people who are going, "What is this about? I don't think the punishment fits the crime here." Or exploding on ourselves, right? Like being really mean to ourselves when we make mistakes. And this doesn't necessarily have to have anything to do with other people. Okay. So to the question of what the heck is going on with me, what is the deal with all my feelings? What I go looking for in that library is the information to say, when did you learn that suppressing your pain unconsciously, not a decision that you made consciously, but when did you learn, maybe at what age or in what circumstances, in what relationship, when did you learn that this was the best way to take care of yourself? And because I'm using a treatment modality that is less about getting information from the library, which is sometimes helpful, but usually a lot less helpful than finding out what's in the basement, what is going on with the part of you that is both holding the beach ball under the water as well as looking at everybody and going, "What beach ball?" And so the very thing that we have been conditioned and trained not to do as Westerners, and I would kind of broadly expand that to everyone that is kind of experiencing this kind of European imperialistic framework of how to think, how to act, and how to feel. We all suppress our feelings because we live in a world where there's no time to fall apart. I used to have a graduate student who worked at an inpatient mental health treatment facility in Hawaii. There's like equine therapy, which is riding horses, juice, hikes, surfing. And I fantasize about going to that place, I don't know, at least once a year. But the question always becomes like, well, who's going to take care of my house? Who's going to pay my bills? Who's going to keep everything afloat if I actually go take a little mentee B, have a little mental health break and go do that? And the answer is, for a lot of us, there is no safety net like that we're not really allowed, or we don't have the infrastructure in our lives to let things fall apart. So then if that's not an option, the other option would be finding out systematically, safely, what is actually in that basement. But we don't start by just busting down the door, because that may not be psychologically, holistically safe for someone. And so we start in the library and go, what do you know about the chains? What do you know about like the keys that are hidden all over this room, stuff like that? And a lot of times I can get a lot of really good information from that, like intellectual, maybe perfectionistic, high achieving part that says there's no benefit to be gained from knowing about my pain or anything that's deeper than just the surface. And that's usually the job of a skilled mental health or trauma therapist. In particular, what I do, which is the more somatic and body-based approach, I am not going to reference myself as the expert. I'm just the conduit. My clients' experiences and their own bodies are the experts in the room. I've just been taught how to ask questions the right way. And so usually at the end of one of these videos or a talk, there's some sort of intervention or release. And I think that a good one to do today would be, my emotions are beneath my notice. That's kind of what the library is for. I can learn, I can have intellectual information, I can logically fix it up here. And if that was true, okay, well, you should just keep doing that. But if it's not working for any reason, you have neck and shoulder tension, you have a hard time sleeping, you have panic attacks, you blow up at your kids, you don't know why, sometimes you're just crying or feeling overwhelmed, then I would infer that logic can't do everything for you. And so the phrase is, my emotions are beneath my notice. And as usual, you would sense into your own body for how strong that feels, how true or how strong that feels. A 10 would be, that's the fact. That's a fact. And 0 would be, that doesn't feel true at all. And for me, it's about a 5. I've worked on that a lot in my life, certainly in my adulthood. And I can also tell you that it's at my root, the root energy center, thinking about the base of your tailbone. The framework is that this root energy center is associated with safety, connection, protection, belonging. So if you ever got treated like your emotions were beneath someone else's notice, someone that mattered, that could be a family member, a partner, or so on, the easiest way to keep that relationship stable would be to align your worldview with them. Meaning, you would go, okay, well, if you're treating me like my emotions are beneath your notice, it would be easier for me to treat myself the same way than it would be to go, why do you treat me like my feelings don't matter? And a lot of us just don't have the skills to talk that way until we go and learn them as adults. So I'm going to put my hand at my root. And you can always just hover your hand over your lap if it doesn't feel comfortable to like physically touch any part of your body. But for you, it might be at the throat because you don't want to communicate your feelings, or it might be at your head, the intellect part that goes, yeah, my feelings are beneath my notice. Who needs them? So for you, you can put your hand wherever it feels the most resonant. You can follow along with me, which would be hand at the root. And if you can't figure it out, you can always just defer to hand at your center chest. So you're going to put your hand at a stationary energy center on your body, And then starting at your crown with your other hand at your crown, or you don't even have to move your hands. You can just send your attention to each of these energy centers as I repeat them. We are going to repeat the phrase, my emotions are beneath my notice. Okay, now move your hand to your forehead and say that phrase again. My emotions are beneath my notice. Now to your chin. My emotions are beneath my notice. And the thing that's coming up for me when I have my hand at my chin is thinking about the phrase beneath as in like less important or less valuable, less valid, right? That's why we say beneath my notice, as in they're not important enough to pay attention to. Okay, now your hand at your throat. My emotions are beneath my notice. Now move your hand to your center chest. Say it again. My emotions are beneath my notice. Now to your left heart. That's to the left of your center chest. My emotions are beneath my notice. To your right heart. My emotions are beneath my notice. I'm thinking about all the people in my family line that came before me that also held this belief. It's how a lot of our ancestors survived. Now move your hand to your solar plexus, where your rib cage meets in the center. Say the phrase again. My emotions are beneath my notice. Okay, now to your belly button. My emotions are beneath my notice. Now to your low belly in the center, your sacral chakra, where your hip bones might meet in the center. My emotions are beneath my notice. Okay, now move your hand to your left hip crease, where your leg and your trunk meet. My emotions are beneath my notice. Okay, now to your right hip crease, where your leg and your trunk meet. My emotions are beneath my notice. And now one more time, move your hand to your root. You can hover your hand over your lap. You can put your hand between your legs, or you can be sitting on both of your hands from the back. Any of those are fine. My emotions are beneath my notice. Okay, you can release your hands, take a big deep breath. I noticed the entire time while I was doing that, kind of ebbing and flowing tension right here over my right eye. This is one of the places that my body has recently begun to give me information if it wants my attention. No surprise. Okay. And so for me now, I'm getting the sense that this phrase is a 0. If you are getting the sense, maybe say it started at a 10, but now it feels like it's an 8, you would want to do another whole round. So just rewind the video and do another round. If this is material or it's giving you information that you might need to bring to your own mental health therapist or to your lifestyle coach or something like that, do that, right? So if there's something that feels like it's too big for you to do on your own, you should always take that to some additional support. And if the phrase, my feelings or my emotions are beneath my notice, is the negative version of this cognition, then now we need to install whatever would be the positive or the affirming or pro-social version of that phrase. And so there's a couple of things I have floating around in my head, but it doesn't really matter. because the correct one, I just found it, is my emotions are important to me. And so if that doesn't feel close to true or like even available to try to install, start with something that does feel available. So however far back you have to move from the phrase. So if the phrase, my emotions are important to me, feels available to install, do that. But if that feels crazy, then start with something like, I'm willing to consider that my emotions are important to me. Or I'm willing to entertain the possibility that I might receive some benefit from knowing my own emotional life. Take it as far back as you need to until the affirmation or the positive cognition feels like something that you could actually get on board with. So if you're ambivalent, maybe it would be helpful to say something like, I'm open to the possibility, which is more available maybe than saying, yeah, my feelings are important to me, gung ho, green light. I'm going to say my emotions are important to me because they are. And that feels right now like a 7. So if it's a 7, I'm going to do a whole round from the bottom up. We skip the hip creases because the number 11 is important. And that's the only reason. So I'm going to put my hand at my center chest, starting my hand at my root. And the phrase is, my emotions are important to me. Now to the pelvis. My emotions are important to me. Now to your belly button. My emotions are important to me. To the solar plexus. My emotions are important to me. Both hands at the center chest. My emotions are important to me. To your left heart. My emotions are important to me. To your right heart. My emotions are important to me. Now to your throat. My emotions are important to me. To your chin. My emotions are important to me. To the forehead. My emotions are important to me. And then to the crown of the head. My emotions are important to me. Yeah, that feels like a 10. Pretty strong. It felt really nice to say that as I was going from the bottom up. If you need another round, doing the same thing, just strengthening that phrase up. Find a place where it feels correct to place your stationary hand, and then going again from the root to the crown. And so for the person who weighed in and voted on, what the heck is going on with me? I don't understand my feelings. Understanding feelings may be something that comes after the fact that we acknowledge that we have a hard time allowing our feelings to come up, or we're having a hard time having a friendly relationship with our own emotional life. So that's usually where we would want to start. You can always come back to this video as often as you need to, or use that positive cognition or the affirmation, my emotions are important to me, going from the bottom up anytime, because that's just going to help repattern your brain as you speak to yourself this way, as speaking to yourself in love, as a way of being affirming or curious or interested in your own emotional life. So then the next time you blow up at somebody, or you are surprised by your own reaction, or you're experiencing some sort of big emotional upheaval, a different question than what is wrong with me is, what in me is trying to get my attention? but maybe that part just doesn't have the skills to come knocking on the door of the library with a fat binder full of information. I hope this was helpful. You know where to find me. Feel free to share this video. And if you're looking for this type of work in the state that you live in, you can always go to the Advanced Integrative Therapy Institute's website to find an AIT therapist, which is what I am, in the state that you live in or the country that you live in, so that you can get the benefit of doing some of this more specific work with someone who can have a dedicated role in helping you in this process. All right.